Hello, friends. Welcome to How She Owns It, a podcast dedicated to female entrepreneurs and boss moms who left their 9 to 5 to own their time, their finances, and their joy in life by building their own businesses. In this episode, I have Tonya. Tonya, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I'm so glad to be here.
Tonya Crombie of, actually, you are the first author, so I'm so excited because you're the first author of this podcast. So can you tell the listeners a little bit more about your businesses or your passions and what made you start to have your own venture?
Absolutely. So like you said, I'm Tonya Crombie. I have a Ph.D. in psychology and I am a certified life coach. And my passion, I had lots of passions over the years and it sort of evolved over time, to be perfectly honest. The way that I ended up on the entrepreneurial journey, one of your questions you sent me ahead of time, you said, like, how did you make this decision? And I thought to myself, did I ever really make this decision? I don't think I made a decision to do it, actually. I think it sort of happened over time. So I had an amazing career in corporate America. And I had just like my dream job, and I got to travel all over the world, and I met awesome people, and I did fun projects, and it was great. And I had met an awesome guy, like what we all hope to do, and we fell in love and got married and had a baby. And when I had my first child, I looked around at the fact that I traveled all over the world and my husband also traveled, and it just wasn't an ideal situation for having a baby, to be honest. And I was an older mom, relatively speaking, I guess. And I kind of wanted to experience what it was like to be a mom. And I really wanted to, just like I had done with my career where I was all in, I wanted to be all in with the mom thing for a while. So I ended up being a stay-at-home mom, having another baby right away. So I had 2 babies very close in age. But just like so many, I'm sure, of your guests, people you talk to who did have jobs, I had a job that I loved. So it was, even though I loved being a mom, there was always that part of me that missed what I used to do. And so over time, I kept trying to figure out ways to still be a mom and, use my professional brain, use all the stuff I'd learned. Yeah. So that's how I got on this journey. I was always dabbling, kind of like, well, I'll try this. And over time, it's just become clearer and clearer, as we all do in everything in life. You do things and you're like, ooh, I didn't really like that so much, but I love this part. Ooh, I like this part. And so I've kind of navigated based on what I really love.
Did you find it quite difficult to go from, what was your job in corporate America?
I was a director of human resource development. So I would help with the succession planning, performance management, the surveys, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And did you struggle to become a stay-at-home mom during that time?
Absolutely. Yeah. It was really a tough transition because I lost my identity. My whole identity was my, what do you do? And I had to figure out who I am if it's not my job.
Absolutely. I think anyone at any age can definitely resonate with your story, like having their work as their identities. I think it's changing a lot now that there's a bit more of have your own personal life, have that work-life balance, whatever that is to people. And that's different to a lot of people. But I think that feeling of identity being intertwined with what you do is a really massive thing for a lot of people. So you were stay-at-home mom for how many years?
I mean, technically I'm still a stay-at-home mom, but so I don't know, because I would take on contract work basically when they were babies. I took on projects. So I went the first year and maybe year and a half before I took the first little project, and then kind of would go back and forth with the project. Oh, that was a little too much. I'm going to not do so much and then do a little more.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, because I think a lot of people now, especially with COVID and stuff, they have decided to launch their own online businesses, like a lot of stay-at-home moms, because they start to find out, for example, in the kind of space I'm in, I'm an online business, I have an online business management agency, but other people are, the whole pandemic, they're starting to realize that online work is at their grasp. You know, they didn't
Mhm.
need to go to college, they didn't need to have a PhD, they didn't need to have, 10 years experience in an organization. They can literally work with a laptop with their babies at home. And I think it's like this really interesting transition into remote work, and the awareness of remote work that has blown up a lot in this recent last 6 months or so. So I think that's really interesting. That's why I always like to ask my guests, when did you start working online, kind of thing. But for you, it was kind of this natural transition from corporate America to taking contracted work.
Mhm.
So let's talk about you now. So what projects are you currently working on?
So, as you know, as you mentioned, I'm an author. So, I am a coach, a life coach. And my latest work is really around anxiety. And just like everything else, you will hear a theme as we talk, but everything in my life is sort of, it finds me as much as I find it. I don't know that there are many things I would say that I've done that I had this, like, I know I want to do exactly this thing. It's more life happens and it becomes clear, oh, this is the thing I'm supposed to be doing now. So how life happened for me was, I had a child. I have two children, as I mentioned, and we one of my two children has always been a little anxious, just a little anxious. And I wouldn't have even called her that as a young child. I would have just said she's slow to warm up to new situations. She likes to have a friend when she does something. She never wants to do anything alone. Just things like that. I knew she was a nail biter. I knew. So there were signs that she had some anxiety, but it wasn't anything that ever interfered with her day-to-day life. But about the time that she was hitting puberty, which is a tough time for kids, we also moved. So she had always been in the very same house, same neighborhood, same school, had the same neighborhood friends. And we, uprooted and moved to an entirely different part of the country, new school, new neighborhood, new friends, new teachers, new everything. And as I said, she'd always had a little anxiety. So those things kind of really built up and created a perfect storm. And her anxiety kind of got out of control, where it was really affecting, like when I said it wasn't affecting day-to-day life before, it was totally affecting day-to-day life. And luckily, because we had just moved, my business had been predominantly in person in our previous town. I had office space and was just working with people live. So I had basically shut that business down when we moved. So I had the freedom to be very, very focused on figuring out what my child needed to get through her transition. And it was a rough transition. It was a rough transition because, not because of, obviously her suffering, but really the learning for me that guided me to the business that I'm in was that I did a lot of things wrong as a mom, that I was as much part of the problem um, as I could have been. I was part of the problem. And that was a huge aha for me to realize that I needed to change. I needed to do things.
What sort of things led you to believe that you were doing the wrong things? Like, what were you doing?
So here, it wasn't that I thought, oh, I'm doing the wrong things. I thought I
Of
am
course,
having,
your parents always just want the best for the children, but what
right.
thing exacerbated her anxiety that you thought was helping?
So here's how it worked for us is
Mhm.
she was struggling and I was freaking out because she was struggling. And
Mhm.
I started to realize I'm not handling this well. I have no patience with my other child. I have no patience with my husband. I am on edge all the time. I'm not sleeping. And I've just got to figure out something to get myself under control. I wasn't even thinking I need to help my daughter better. I was thinking I got to get myself under control. So
Mhm.
all the stuff, I'm a coach. I coach people all the time. I've been telling people for years, you need to meditate. You need to have these practices. You need to look at what you're thinking and dig into your thoughts. And I just had to start doing it on myself.
Yeah.
And I did it on myself. And miraculously, when I did, my daughter got better. And I didn't think, oh, I'm going to do this to make my daughter better. I thought, I got to get something. I got to do something because this is not working. And suddenly I started, wow, this is helping her. I'm more calm. And now I can see that when I wasn't calm, I was making her more anxious, because there's nothing more scary to a child
Yeah.
than to look at your parent and be like, wow, you don't know what to do either. You're freaking out too.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. So what steps did you take if our listeners tuned into this because, you know, they have anxiety themselves, or their children or a loved one has anxiety? What would be the best way? What would be like step one for them?
Okay, step one, and I'm going to give you a little plug that I did. It's all in this book. This book is all the stuff I did, and all the stuff I figured out, all the stuff I did wrong. It's a
We'll come back to that as well.
yeah, but there you can get it all there. But the very first step is just to notice what's going on, because and like I said, I was doing that. I was just reacting. I was constantly in a reactive mode, and the moment that I said, something's wrong with me here, this is happening in me, that was that huge turning point. So with any time, and this doesn't have to be about your child, this can be, like you said, people who are feeling anxious and are kind of going about their day and pushing through, because that's what we do. We're busy moms, we're entrepreneurs, we're changing the world, so we just keep going, and we've got this push through mentality, and that is not the way to get through this. The way to get through it is to notice and to get really, really curious about what's happening. So what is happening inside of you right then, right at the moment that you're feeling? First is to say, gosh, I'm feeling kind of anxious. Stop and notice that. And then dig into it. So we could do a little practice session right now if you want to try it.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I would love to let's make it a little bit more complicated, because
Okay.
I come from an Asian background and mental health is not a thing. I will tell you that right now. You say you have anxiety, people will laugh in your face and think, what's that? Life's hard, get over it. So I think sometimes, and a lot of our listeners, because, you know, I have women of color listeners, they wouldn't even, it's not even a sense of like, it's almost like they have to persuade people to believe they have anxiety, which is a whole different problem. But
right.
Yeah, definitely. I think getting curious is a really, really good step. And yeah, I would love to do a live coaching session right now. I always want a little bit of coaching.
Well, let me address your point about, not acknowledging that you have anxiety. I don't think you have to. I don't think you have to, because anxiety is just a word. It's a name. We could have called it Fred. We could have, we can call it whatever we want to. At the end of the day, and this is so important for every person out there to hear, is that a lot of us are walking around. So you got people, like you said, who are like, I don't have anxiety. That's not even a thing I acknowledge. That's one group of people. And then there's another group of people who've learned this word and have decided, I have anxiety. Something is wrong with me. I am broken. And both of those aren't right exactly.
Yeah,
The thing
not
is,
helpful.
yeah, it is. This is how we're designed to work. We are human beings who have a very complicated, cool brain. And part of our brain is all up here, this prefrontal cortex. It's where we do all of our sophisticated planning and thinking and all that good stuff. We also have some residue from evolutions, like it's the lizard brain, the limbic brain. It's very, very simple. And all that part of our brain is designed to do is to keep us alive, to be alert for danger. When it spots danger, it's going to send us a signal to the whole body to say, you need to fight, you need to run away, or you need to freeze and hide in place. And that's what your body, and it's still there, even though you aren't going to face the hungry lion today. But, if you have a presentation, if I have to get on a Zoom call and do an interview with Pauline, maybe I might have my lizard brain might get activated, and I might be like, ooh, I'm, and what happens and why we care It doesn't matter if you use the word anxiety or not, but that hijacks this. So the lizard brain hijacks all this cool stuff. And this is the stuff that we need to be successful entrepreneurs, to solve the problem, or to be successful moms. That's exactly what my story was about. When I was back there, I couldn't problem solve. I couldn't see what was going on with my kid. I would think she was being angry and having angry outbursts, and I wouldn't have the good sense to say, this is an anxiety attack. This is panic. This is a child who's terrified. So when we're back here, totally normal. If my house catches on fire, I've got this thing that's going to save my life. It's awesome. It's just that we use it at the wrong time. Some of us are more sensitive than others too. That's the other thing. Some of us will get into that lizard brain very, very easily. Some of us, we know those people too that are like so calm and so zen.
Yeah.
They're genetic anomalies. The rest of us are normal.
Absolutely. And it's definitely a product of environment to some extent as well.
Yeah.
If you've experienced trauma, if you have a parent that, is anxious. My mother has anxiety, definitely. And I do think that a lot of my anxiousness does come from her panicking. Because I remember being very young and like witnessing her panicking over small things. And us moms as well, because we're trying to like take care of everything, and we're always got multitasking and juggling all sorts of different things. We are quite receptive when things go wrong, I would say. So brilliant. Okay, I'm ready for my coaching session.
Okay. Well, talk to me about what's your biggest concern right now?
I think the biggest concern that causes a lot of anxiety is, I think it's not necessarily comparison, because I try my best not to compare myself to other people, but it's kind of, I've always been quite an impatient person. So I always like to move, like scale from 0 to 100 very quickly. And it is something that I am working on, but I always feel that if I don't run, and I'm not running, and I'm not doing all the things, that I'm being lazy. And I do get that guilt of like, oh, I'm not working. I'm not putting enough in the business. Like I'm taking advantage of, having Netflix and being on lockdown and so on. And I do just get this guilt. And yeah, I think it is. And I don't know whether because there's a lot of like hustle, hustle kind of mentality, or because I am a fairly new business owner. And it's a lot of that kind of like insecurity and I always like to say I am a recovering perfectionist and impatience. And that's what causes the anxiety most of the time, because I'm like, oh, I can't sleep. I have like 10 million things to do on my to-do list. I gotta get it done.
Okay. So when you're in bed and you can't sleep and you're thinking, tell me some of the thoughts that you're having with that. I've got 10 million things to do. What are some things that are running through your head at that moment?
Like I was not productive enough today. I should be out there getting more business in, or like today was too short, like I wasted today, along those lines.
Okay. And when you think something like, I should have gotten more business today, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean?
I suppose it's along the lines of, I should have done more networking. I should have gotten more sales calls. I should have done more pitching. I should have applied for more projects. I should have sent more proposals. I'm very data driven. So for me, it's like, oh, well, I only did 2 of these proposals. Should have done 3 or 4. It's kind of like that.
Okay, well, let's just do a quick little exercise and play around with the thought, because what we all have are like favorite thoughts, right? And the way our brain works still is that when we have a thought that we think over and over and over again, we create a really strong neural pathway in our brain that we like. So then it becomes like a circular thing. I think it a lot, so the pathway gets stronger. The pathway is stronger, which makes me think it a lot. And so then it's like we're in a little rut of, so you've definitely got a neural pathway that says, I'm supposed to be really productive. I shouldn't be lazy. There's something like that is, you have probably been thinking since you were, somebody said it to you when you were 6 years old, and now you've like, oh, that's very important. I should not be lazy, so I'm going to keep thinking this forever, right? So if you were to say, what's that, like, what's the heart of it? What's the I should?
Yeah, most probably. Yeah. I mean, I'm a big believer that a lot of things were happened throughout childhood and socialized into you, for sure. Yeah, probably, most
So if there
likely.
was one simple snippet thought that you think it could, that thought is, what would you say it is? Is it
Yeah,
like,
it must be work hard. Yeah.
work hard? I have to work hard,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So let's do a quick little just thought exercise just for fun. And let me ask you, I should work hard, right? That's
Hmm.
the thought. And when I say that, if you say it to yourself, I should work hard, does that feel true to you? Is that like in your
Yeah.
body? Absolutely. I should work hard is so true. Can you absolutely know without any doubt that you should work hard?
No.
Is it possible that the opposite of that thought, I should work hard, can also, I'm not going to tell you you have to give up I should work hard, because that's a special thought for you, but is it possible that I should not work hard can also be true?
Yes.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, give me three examples of why I should not be work hard could be true. How could that be true to you?
Um, so I should not work hard when it's time to go to sleep.
Yeah,
I should not work hard when I am relaxing. Um, and I should not work hard when I am spending time with my friends.
absolutely. And are there times when the thought I should work hard interferes with you relaxing or spending time with your friends?
Yes. Hmm.
Yes. So I want you to think for a moment right now. Let's just imagine that you had this really weird thing that happened in your brain, and everything in your life is exactly the same. The only thing that has changed is you can no longer think to yourself, I should work hard. That thought has gone. Everything else is the same, the amount of work you have to do, your life, but you can't think, I should work hard anymore. And I want you to just tell me what that would be like. What would it be like for you?
I'll be much more relaxed.
How would you treat yourself if that were true, if you couldn't think it?
I'll probably be a lot more compassionate to myself.
How would you treat other people if you don't think I should work hard?
I I'd probably get more joy of spending time with people if I wasn't so anxious about what I need to be doing at the time.
Mm-hmm. So what we are doing right there is we're just kind of exploring a thought, and that thought is kind of, it is what it is. We all have them. Like I said, they're pet thoughts. But when we sort of dig into, is it true? And could the opposite be true? And how is it affecting me to believe that this is true? All we're doing is like creating a tiny little wiggle room in your brain. You're not getting rid of it because that's part of who you are. But doing that kind of an exercise, just asking yourself when you notice, I'm freaking out, I feel like I'm not getting enough done. Is this true? Am I not getting enough done? Is that actually true? Could the
Mm.
opposite of this be true? Challenging those thoughts little by little. And again, this is an exercise I do all the time. This is some of the stuff I had where, I'm failing as a mother. That was one of my
Mm.
favorite thoughts. And so I'd have to, am I really failing as a
Yeah.
mother? And you do. What you said was exactly right. You become more compassionate to yourself. And when you're more compassionate to yourself, it's just sort of like a big exhale. And
Yeah.
that has helped reset.
And that's why I think meditation is very powerful. It gives you that space to have to observe those thoughts. Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. Before we wrap up, I'd love to know, how did the book come about? Because I'm sure some of our listeners are thinking, oh my goodness, I want to be a writer. I want to have a book published like Tonya.
Well, I've always wanted to be a writer as well. So that was like one of my very first, I used to write books when I was a little girl, and I've written lots and lots of different things over the years. And I started when I was going through this stuff. Again, the way life works, I think you can attract whatever you're going through or whatever you've created. And so I was kind of doing this work on myself and having some real ahas. And I started finding I had a lot of clients who were going through similar things, not by marketing, but just by sheer happenstance. Those types of people were finding me. And as I was coaching other parents who were struggling with their own journey with anxious kids, people would say, you need to write this down. You should, and so that's how the book came about. I was like, you know what, I would like to write it down. I would like people, I'm not going to coach everyone. I'm not going to coach every parent who's ever had an anxious child, but for those who I'll never meet, I would love to give them something that says, you're not alone. If you screw up, I have a PhD and I screwed up. So don't feel bad. We all screw up. It's so hard. And if you are, feeling like you're the only person out there who's ever gone through this, I want you to know you're not.
My goodness, I should have introduced you as Dr. Crombie. What a waste of a PhD if I don't get to call you doctor.
No one ever does.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Crombie. I think it's been really wonderful to have you on the show, and I'm sure our listeners, will be dying to get your books, because I'm sure that there's a lot of anxiety and especially for a newbie mom who doesn't quite know how to deal with it. I think this kind of book will really help them out. So thank you so much for your time and for coaching me.
Well, I'm thrilled. And for your listeners, so the book will not be it's only pre-order right now, so it's not available until 2021. But if you would like a free download of it, go to FromAnxiousToCalm.com. And my publisher is letting me give away free downloads until the book goes live in February next year.
Amazing. We'll put that in the show notes as well, so everyone can have a go and click on it and see a little bit of sneak peek for 2021. Brilliant.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was so awesome being with you today.